Got a Lunker here with a Big Buddy heater modification video. After watching this video, you will be able to make all of the modifications shown on your screen, and you will be able to apply that knowledge to other projects. Before we begin, when you are working with electrical components, you proceed at your own risk. Many of you are already well aware of the Big Buddy heater. While they have a variety of uses, I and many others use these in the cold weather months to keep our ice fishing shacks warm. The focus of today's video will be the Big Buddy heater fan and options for powering it. That said, anyone who has a Big Buddy heater can perform these modifications. This video is fairly comprehensive and intended for folks with limited knowledge of direct current power. To get started, it's important to know that the integrated Buddy fan operates at 6 volts and consumes roughly 400 milliamps of power. We can talk about these numbers more later. Out of the box, the heater fan can be operated one of 2 ways: 4 D-cell batteries, or the optional Buddy heater AC adapter. Find the link in the description. Now let's look at each of these separately. Each D-cell battery produces 1.5 volts of power, and when wired in series will make 6 volts. This is how the unit is designed from the manufacturer. When wired in series, the voltage will multiply, but the capacity remains the same. For the purposes of this video, we will say that a brand new set of 4 batteries will have a typical capacity of 10,000 milliamps. Knowing this, simple division tells us that a set of 4 D batteries may last as long as 25 hours, approximately. Of course, this number is an estimate and may not be reflective of real-world experience. The other option is the optional $15 to $20 Buddy heater AC adapter. This adapter is rated at 800 milliamps, about twice the capacity draw of the fan. Clearly, both of these options have their challenges because expensive D batteries need to be replaced often, and not only is $15 to $20 for a single adapter quite expensive, but AC power is hard to come by out on the ice. So last ice season, 2017, I set about to solve both challenges. Of course, if I was going to do this, I was also faced with a third challenge of that little 2.5 millimeter plug. The first challenge was battery power. Since the Buddy heater runs on 6 volts, a source battery solution was easy because I already had a variety of lanterns and flashlights that use the rechargeable spring-equipped batteries. Of course, there are other 6-volt rechargeable options, but I will touch on those later. For now, this was my choice. As you can see in the picture, to operate the Buddy heater fan with this chosen battery source, I made a cable with alligator clips on one end and a male 2.5 millimeter plug on the other. I purchased the alligator clips from a local home improvement store and the 2.5 millimeter plug as a 2-piece multi-pack for $4 from RadioShack. Link in the description below. The second challenge was AC power. I simply was not going to spend $20 for the branded adapter. This is one of those things that you wish you had when the need arises. For this, I went to my local thrift store and found an AC adapter that outputs 6 volts and enough milliamp rating to overcome the draw of the fan. The important thing to note about these adapters is that the current rating should exceed the draw of the appliance. In this case, we know the manufacturer sells an adapter rated at 800 milliamps, so to be safe, I found an adapter that outputs 1300 milliamps. For the other end, I simply installed a 2.5 millimeter plug. This problem is now solved for about $4 in parts and materials. This brings me to ice fishing season 2018 and wanting to solve a new problem. As we've shown, the heater fan operates on 6 volts. but this can also be a problem. Most ice fishermen have LED lights, sonar units, and portable power boxes that all run on 12-volt power. So how can we connect our 12-volt power source to our 6-volt heater fan? To solve this problem, you will need a step-down converter like the one shown here. Link in the description. This device will convert 12-volt input power to 6-volt output power with a max output of 3000 milliamps. As we've shown, the output voltage will now be the same, and the maxed power draw is more than enough to handle the 400 milliamp draw of the fan. So how do we wire this up? I wanted to keep the converter with the heater, so I decided to perform surgery on my trusty Buddy heater. To begin, start by removing the 4 screws shown here. When removing the back, there's a plastic tab that interferes with the location of the top screw holes. You will need to gently pry up until the screw hole locations clear the plastic tab. Once clear, you can remove the back from the unit. Set the heater unit aside until later. Here is the back with the fan assembly installed. The D-cell batteries we spoke of earlier bring power to the fan here. The green wire is positive and the black is ground. This is the back of the switch to turn the fan on. The white wire supplies power to the switch, and the red wire brings power to the fan. Here is a connector with the white power wire going to the switch at left. The black wire on the right goes to the ground. Red wire on the right is coming from the switch, and the red and black on the left are going downward to the fan. Now that we know the way the fan is wired, we need to tap into the power wire before the switch and tap into a ground wire. Pay attention, because here is how we will do it. Cut the white power wire and the main black ground wire, giving yourself enough room to work. Using marine grade heat shrink connectors, reconnect as shown. Let's add some labels. Yellow 6-volt output ground with black ground on one side and black ground on the other. Red 6-volt output power and white power on one side with white on the other side. Heat shrink the connectors and tuck behind the heat shield in the original wiring location. Now we need to mount the converter. For this, I opted to use 1/8 diameter aluminum rivets with a 1/4 inch grip. Simply mark and install the first rivet. Then drill the hole and install the second rivet. Do it this way because odds are the converter will shift when you try to get the head of the rivet tool close enough to install the rivet. If you don't have rivets in a rivet gun, you could also likely use small self-tapping screws or maybe even some zip ties. Notice in the background there is a black mark on the plastic housing of the heater. I added this black mark to align with the holes in the tank compartment. For the 12-volt input power side, the cables will not be long enough, so you will need to add an extender if you hope to connect to a battery. I opted for the approach shown because it is an inexpensive and foolproof way to prevent crossing polarity. Also, I can create multiple power options, as I will show next. These are simple male-female bullet connectors. Here is the finished back. Testing is going great. Now just reassemble the unit back together. Being careful to gently pry past the plastic tabs. Here is a 12-volt battery in the tank compartment. It's a tight squeeze, but the door does close. Another option might be to run two 6-volt batteries in series. Batteries like these are often used to run trail cameras and can be inexpensive and readily available. However, it is critical that when connecting two batteries together, they are exactly the same age, voltage, and condition. Do not mix batteries unless they are the same age, voltage, and condition. Connecting two 6-volt batteries in series would give you 12 volts, but the capacity would remain the same. Connect in series as shown by using a jumper cable in the middle and connecting the red and black from the Big Buddy converter you just installed. Another way, and maybe a better way, would be to connect two 6-volt batteries in parallel as shown and wire them to the 2.5mm plug. This would keep the voltage the same at 6 volts, but the capacity of the two batteries would be combined. Additionally, if you wanted this as a permanent solution but didn't want the 2.5mm plug, you could do this entire process, but instead of splicing in and adding the step-down converter, you could add two leads that you would then connect to a 6-volt source. Going back to the extender cables I made that connect directly to a 12-volt battery prong, I also made a connector that allows me to use a 12-volt socket instead. Here, I am testing using my portable battery box and all is working well. If you wanted to do AC power and you only had a 12-volt AC transformer, wire it the same as the AC adapter shown here again, except instead of a 2.5mm plug, wire terminal ends that correspond to the 12-volt power input leads going to the new step-down converter. On a final note, all the cables I made for this modification and the cable for 6-volt spring-style batteries will fit inside the battery compartment for easy storage and ensuring you always have the cables you need. The one exception to this is the AC transformer. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you liked the video. Please share if you think other folks can benefit from these modifications.